Waking up to find myself inside the novel I just finished, what kind of experience is that? The good news is that I've become a rich, handsome, and spoiled young master. The bad news is that he's just the simp and cannon fodder of the vicious female supporting character. So, after entering the book, the first thing I did was ask her out to break off our engagement. I looked at the icy-cold, billionaire CEO beauty in front of me. I couldn't help but sigh in my heart. She's really gorgeous. But unfortunately she's a cold beauty and a total workaholic. Whoever marries her will basically end up living alone. Hurry up and get through the procedure. I still have a gaming session scheduled with my friends later. I lifted my coffee cup, ready to say, let's cancel our engagement. But unexpectedly, the ice-cold beauty, always known for her calm and self-control, suddenly let the coffee spoon in her hand slip with a clang into her cup. Chapter 1. My name is George, and 3 days ago I was still an ordinary corporate slave who worked overtime every single day. My only entertainment was reading web novels, and lately I'd been following a male power fantasy story called The Return of the Domineering CEO in the City. Then I woke up one morning, and I had transmigrated. I had become a cannon fodder male supporting role with the same name as mine in the novel, a rich and handsome but otherwise useless playboy. For the sake of a business-marriage alliance, my family had arranged a fiancé for me, and the other party was the novel's aloof second female lead, an iceberg-type CEO worth billions, Willow. In the original story, this cannon fodder George was madly in love with Willow, turning himself into the ultimate simp, helping the female supporting role fight the male protagonist. In the end, the protagonist stomped him dead, and his family went bankrupt with him. Pathetic ending. You ask me what I think about all that. I just want to be a happy shut-in slob. So, on my third day in this book world, I took the initiative to ask Willow out. The meeting place was the cafe downstairs from her company. I had only one purpose: break off the engagement. I sized up the woman sitting across from me. She wore a custom-tailored business suit that traced every stunning curve. Her long hair was pinned tightly at the back of her head, revealing a fair, swan-like neck. That face, so exquisite it looked like it was generated by AI, but her expression was as cold as a Siberian winter front. I thought to myself, TSK, TSK. No wonder she's a billionaire queen. That aura, that face, unreal. Too bad she's a complete workaholic. In the original novel she worked so much she didn't even eat properly and ruined her stomach. Whoever marries her basically marries a work machine. One with shards of ice attached, just begging for bad luck. Better end this engagement quickly, go home, play games, study my 8 major cuisines, and brew some homemade liquor. Now that's the life of a celestial being. I cleared my throat, lifted my coffee, put on a formulaic smile, and was just about to speak. Miss Lou, clang. A crisp sound cut me off. The silver coffee spoon slipped straight out of Willow Lou's hand and fell into her porcelain cup, sending up a ring of brown ripples. For the first time, a trace of astonishment appeared in those calm, phoenix-shaped eyes. She stared at me fixedly, as if trying to find flowers blooming on my face. Puzzled, I thought. Did I scare her? No way. Right. Don't tell me I'm too handsome and she got flustered. I subconsciously touched my own face. To be fair, this body was top tier, 8-pack abs, perfect V-line, and looks on par with peak Brad Pitt. Willow's expression grew even stranger, a mix of shock, suspicion, and a hint of incredulity. She drew in a deep breath, her iceberg demeanor returning. Mr. Wong, why did you ask to meet me today? Her voice was as cold and emotionless as she was. Here we go, the main topic. Miss Lou, our engagement was arranged by our elders, but I believe that feelings shouldn't be forced. We don't have any emotional foundation. So, before I finished speaking, I was thinking, so let's just break off the engagement already. You go your way, I'll go mine. You can continue being your workaholic CEO, and I'll go home and enjoy my life as a carefree shut-in. We owe each other nothing. Perfect, right? Willow's breathing visibly faltered for a moment. Her hand resting on the table tightened slightly, her knuckles turning pale. I was confused. This reaction wasn't right. According to the original plot, she looked down on this useless playboy version of me, and couldn't wait to break off the engagement. So why was she acting like this? George Wong. She suddenly spoke, calling me by my full name, her tone even colder. Do you think an engagement is a joke? I froze, thinking, beauty, what are you doing? In the original story you wanted to end the engagement even more than I do. Don't tell me you're mad because I brought it up first and hurt your CEO pride. Women's hearts are needles at the bottom of the sea. Forget it. I'll give her an easy way out. I immediately put on a deeply affectionate expression, my acting going full throttle. Willow, that's not what I mean. I just feel unworthy of you. You're so outstanding, shining like a star, and I'm just a good-for-nothing playboy. I don't want to hold you back. As I spoke, I even squeezed my eyes a little, trying to create a faintly sorrowful atmosphere, but inside, I was screaming, quick, agree, say I'm right, that I'm unworthy. Then tear up the engagement contract. Everybody wins. Willow watched my deeply emotional performance, and the corner of her mouth twitched ever so slightly. Her expression grew even more complicated, like she was looking at some extremely rare, extremely ridiculous clown. Silence. Dense, awkward silence. Just when I thought she was about to explode, she lifted her coffee cup and took a sip. Her movements were elegant, but there was a faint gritted teeth force behind them. Then she looked straight at me with those beautiful phoenix eyes and said, enunciating each word, I will not break the engagement. I stared at her, question marks floating above my head. What? That's not how the script goes, beauty. Did you grab the wrong script? If you don't break off the engagement, how am I supposed to be a happy shut-in? My heart was roaring, though on the surface I forced a look of shock with a hint of false joy. Willow. What on earth are you trying to do? Chapter 2. Why? The words slipped out of my mouth before I could stop it. My shock was completely real. Willow set down her coffee cup with a soft clink, a sound that tapped straight onto my already fragile nerves. Our family's marriage alliance involves collaboration projects worth tens of billions. And you think saying there's no emotional foundation is enough to cancel it? Do you find that realistic? She asked coldly. I cursed inwardly. Damn, I forgot about that. A business alliance means financial interest tied together. Then what do I do now? Seriously marry this iceberg? Wouldn't that completely ruin my grand plan of becoming a carefree shut-in? No way. Absolutely not. Got it. If I can't back out directly, then I'll make her retreat on her own. In the original story, didn't she hate useless rich playboys like me the most? Fine, then I'll double down and make her so disgusted she'll tear the engagement apart herself. Within a second, my mind had already come up with 99 ways to make her hate me. Starting with this one, I leaned back against the sofa, slouching lazily, crossing one leg over the other, and looked her up and down with a deliberately frivolous gaze. So in the end, it's all about money. Fine. If you don't want to break it off, then don't. Marrying someone as pretty as you, I'm not exactly losing. I deliberately emphasized the word pretty, stuffing my tone full of disrespect. Come on, despise me. Give me that glacier-cold stare, call me shallow, tell me I'm beyond saving. I watched her with full anticipation, but once again, Willow's reaction exceeded all expectations. She didn't show disgust, she didn't get angry, she only looked at me quietly, and in those cold, clear eyes, was that a faint hint of amusement. Did I see that right? Did the iceberg CEO just smile? She spoke slowly, as if my compliment genuinely intrigued her. Oh, just pretty. What else? Your inner beauty. You keep your face frozen like someone owes you $8 million. It's only your figure that's impressive. Boobs where boobs should be. Waist where waist should be. Legs for days. Ahem. Stop. Don't think about it. That's getting dangerous. I had just thought that when. PFF. Cough. Willow abruptly choked on the coffee she had just sipped, coughing violently. A flush spread across her usually expressionless, frostbitten face. A nearby waiter panicked and rushed over with tissues. President Lou, are you all right? I'm fine. Willow waved her hand. Accepting the tissues, she wiped her mouth, messily, awkwardly, and all the while shot me a fierce sideways glare. That look contained 3 parts embarrassment and 7 parts fury. I put on an innocent face while screaming internally. What's going on? How do you choke on coffee this easily? This CEO's ability to take care of herself is questionable. Whoever marries her would have to be her full-time babysitter. Tragic. Way too tragic. Willow's hand froze mid-wipe. The tissue in her hand was almost crushed. She took a deep breath, then another. It took everything she had to regain her composure. George. She looked up, her gaze sharper than ever. The engagement is settled. I still have meetings. I'll leave first. With that, she stood up and walked away in high heels, never looking back. But her retreating figure, no matter how I looked at it, it resembled someone fleeing. I watched the spot where she disappeared and fell into deep thought. Things were spiraling completely out of my control. This Willow was far too strange. But since the objective wasn't achieved, the plan must continue. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number. Hello, David. A respectful and capable voice answered from the other end. Young Master Wong, what can I do for you? David, my cheap old man's all-purpose assistant assigned to me. He was my most trusted right-hand man. In the original book, he was a business prodigy, but he followed the wrong master and ended up miserable. But now, he's mine. I need you to handle 3 things, I said lazily. First, buy the abandoned land in the west of the city. Second, short Ito Group stocks. Third, find out why Willow was acting so strangely today. I gave out instructions while reviewing the plot of the original novel in my mind. That piece of land in the west of the city. Next month the government will announce the new development zone plan, and its value will increase 100-fold. The Ito Group, that's the family of Makoto Ito, the guy who's always chasing Willow. They're currently working on an overseas acquisition, but it's actually a trap. 3 days from now, it'll blow up and their stock will hit limit down. Perfect chance to buy in and earn some pocket money. As for Willow, this woman is too bizarre. I have to figure out what's going on. I leaned comfortably back into the sofa, giving orders with just my mouth and no effort. This is exactly the shut-in slob lifestyle I want. Delegate everything to my trusted men, control the big picture, and live happily. Perfect. After hanging up, I stretched lazily and hummed a little tune as I prepared to go home. Little did I know, in the CEO's office, the recently fleeing Willow was now standing before the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, heart in complete turmoil. In her mind, George's outrageous inner thoughts kept replaying endlessly. The West City land, the Ito acquisition case. For a commercial genius like her, she knew exactly what those meant. If George's inner thoughts were true, then he wasn't a useless playboy at all. He was a top-tier genius capable of predicting the market with terrifying precision. Everything, his incompetence, his frivolousness, all of it had been an elaborate disguise. But why? Why hide his true brilliance? And then, Willow's cheeks began heating up again. She recalled George's evaluation of her figure, that bastard, that shameless pervert. But why was it that, when he had thought, can't think anymore, this is getting me heated? She didn't feel offended at all, and instead, her heart skipped a beat. Willow covered her burning face, completely shaken. For the first time ever, she doubted herself. She, Willow Lou, was something wrong with her. Chapter 3. For the next few days, I fully committed to my lying flat persona, basically doing nothing and letting life take its course. I slept until I woke up naturally during the day, hit the gym in the afternoon to lift weights, gamed with friends at night, and had my private chef study how to recreate a full Manchuhan imperial feast. Life was extremely comfortable. As for the engagement cancellation, I wasn't in any hurry at all. Anyway, Willow, that total workaholic, had probably already thrown me to the back of her mind. When she finally remembers me one day and realizes I'm nothing but a useless good-for-nothing, she'll naturally come to break off the engagement herself. That afternoon, I was in my private gym, which was nearly as well equipped as a professional one, working up a sweat. 8-pack abs, V-lines, sweat dripping down the defined muscle lines. It was practically radiating hormones. I silently praised myself. Not bad. This body really has a good foundation. Just a bit of training and the results show. Gotta maintain it. After all, I'll be relying on this physique to enjoy life later. I was admiring myself in the mirror when the door to the gym was suddenly pushed open. I turned around and froze. Standing at the door was Willow. She had changed out of her cold, sharp business suit and was wearing an off-white dress. Her long hair fell softly over her shoulders. Her makeup light, less intimidating, more gentle. What the hell? Why is she here? And dressed like this? Did her personality switch overnight? But I gotta admit, Willow without her usual suit is more feminine, and that dress really shows off her figure. Ahem. Eyes up, eyes up. Willow stood at the doorway, looking at me shirtless and covered in sweat. The tips of her ears quietly turned red. Her gaze lingered on my sharply defined abs for a full 3 seconds. Then, like she had been burned, she snapped her eyes away and cleared her throat. I came to check on you. Her voice was still cool, but if you listened closely, there was the faintest hint of awkwardness. I grabbed a towel, wiped away the sweat, casually threw on a tank top, and walked over lazily. Using a deliberately teasing tone, I said, "Check on me. Is President Lou not busy today? No meetings to run." But inwardly, this is definitely a fox paying respects to a chicken. She's up to no good. I have to see what trick she's planning. Willow's eye twitched. She pulled out an exquisite food box from behind her and handed it to me. "I heard you like partying and clubbing. You probably don't eat properly. I asked the housekeeper to stew some soup for you, to help you replenish your health." I stared at the food box, my eyes practically popping out. Soup? For me? To replenish my health? Did the sun rise from the west today? The Ice Queen CEO personally delivering a love-filled chicken soup? The plot is wrong. In the original story she couldn't even be bothered to look at me. Wait, did she poison it? Want to kill me directly so she can inherit my assets? No wait, she's richer than me. Willow's hand holding the food box stiffened in midair. Her face turned red, then pale, then red again, a whole range of colors. Finally, as if she had reached her limit, she slammed the food box onto the table beside us. Bang. "Drink it if you want." Leaving that line behind, she turned and prepared to storm out. Whoa, she's angry already. I was just joking, but honestly, a woman getting mad like this is kind of cute. Just as the thought crossed my mind, Willow, who had already reached the door, suddenly paused. Her back stiffened, even the tips of her ears turning pink. She didn't look back, only spoke in a muffled voice. The soup isn't poisoned. I put shiitake mushrooms and bamboo shoots, the things you like. Drink it while it's hot. Finishing that, she practically ran off. I stood there, utterly stunned. How did she know I liked shiitake mushrooms and bamboo shoots? After I transmigrated here, I hadn't told anyone that. A terrifying thought slowly rose in my mind. Could it be? I immediately called David. Young Master Wong. David, the thing I asked you to investigate about Willow, any results? Yes, David replied, sounding a bit odd. President Liu has been acting strange these past few days. She rejected Ito Group's partnership proposal and instead mobilized a large sum of money to purchase the land in West City before we could. Damn, I fell into deep thought. She bought the land before me. How did she know it was going to increase in value? And Ito Group, she knew it was going to collapse. The timing matches exactly when I thought about it in the cafe. She sent soup and knew what I liked to eat. One clue after another connected together, forming a mind-blowing conclusion. The hairs on the back of my neck stood straight up. I looked at the still steaming food box on the table, recalling Willow's bizarre behavior today. That woman, could she actually hear my inner thoughts? Chapter 4. The moment that ridiculous idea popped into my mind. Even I was startled. Mind reading. That was even more absurd than me transmigrating into a book. No, I had to test her. The next day, I took the initiative to send Willow a message. Are you free tonight? Let's have dinner together. Heh, alright then. I'm definitely going to test you today. Not even a full minute after I sent the message, I got a reply. One word, okay. And right after that was an address, a newly opened, supposedly impossible to reserve private restaurant. I looked at that address and laughed. Oh ho. Looks like she really can hear me. This restaurant's specialty is seafood stew pots. I had just mentioned wanting to eat that to David last night, and now she arranged it. That evening, I drove my flashy Lamborghini to the restaurant. Willow was already inside the private room. Tonight, she was wearing a long black dress, making her fair skin look even paler and highlighting her elegant, noble aura. When she saw me walk in, that icy expression of hers seemed to soften just a little. You're here. Yeah. I nodded and sat down across from her. Starting my performance, I looked at the exquisite dishes on the table and began complaining internally like crazy. This seafood stew pot looks decent, but the heat control seems a bit off. They used South African abalone instead of top-grade Japanese Yoshihama abalone, and the sea cucumbers aren't Kanto sea cucumbers either. What a waste. Across from me, Willow's hand paused slightly as she held her teacup. This Longjing shrimp dish is good. The shrimp was peeled fresh, but the Longjing tea they used is pre-rain tea. It has enough aroma but lacks depth. If they used pre-Qingming Longjing, it would be on a whole different level. Willow's brows tightened the slightest bit. And this braised pork, it looks okay, but the fragrance is wrong. Authentic braised pork has to be simmered with Shaoxing Huadiao wine. This one sniff and you can tell it's just ordinary cooking wine. 0 points. Clack. Willow gently placed her chopsticks onto the chopstick rest. She lifted her head, her cool gaze locking onto mine. George, if you're not satisfied with the dishes, we can switch to another restaurant. Inside, I was laughing my head off, but on the surface, I wore a confused expression. I said out loud, no, I think it's great. If President Liu treats me to dinner, even a bowl of plain white rice would taste amazing. But inside I was thinking, TCH, can't handle a little critique, it really is poorly made. Even I, a half-baked foodie, can taste the flaws, and it dares call itself a top-tier private kitchen. My osmanthus wine is way better. Paired with my roasted chicken, now that's perfection. Willow's expression visibly shifted from pale to green to red, all in real time. She stared at me, chest rising and falling sharply. I pretended not to notice and casually picked up a shrimp, putting it into my mouth. Delicious. Willow was speechless. She felt like she was about to have a heart attack. This man. He was brutally criticizing every dish in his heart, practically insulting the restaurant she pulled countless strings to reserve, and yet had the gall to act like he was enjoying it. He was doing it on purpose just to annoy her. Osmanthus wine, roasted chicken. A pampered young master like him could cook. Willow's mind was a mess, tangled with all of George's inner thoughts that shattered everything she thought she knew about him. She realized she simply could not enjoy this meal anymore. Meanwhile, watching her struggle to maintain her composure while clearly wanting to explode, I was ecstatic. Refused to cancel the engagement. Fine. Now listen to my inner thoughts. Watch me use pure mental harassment to break your defenses. Just then, the private room door was pushed open. A girl in a white dress walked in, sweet-looking, radiating the warm, gentle vibe of the girl next door. Sorry, I'm late. Gio, you're here too. When she saw me, her eyes lit up and she ran over in delight. I looked up and froze. Sophia. One of the main heroines from the original story, a healing type angelic goddess, and the most beloved member of the male lead's harem among the readers. Why was she here? Chapter 5. Sophia was Willow's younger cousin, that much I already knew. I just didn't expect to run into her here like this. Sophia, why are you here? Willow's icy expression softened slightly when she saw Sophia, though her tone was still not very warm. Cousin, you're too much. You booked such a hard-to-reserve restaurant and didn't invite me. Sophia stuck out her tongue playfully, then naturally sat down in the empty seat right next to me. The moment she sat down, a faint scent of gardenia drifted over. It smelled really nice. Gio, long time no see. You seem even more handsome now. Sophia's bright, sparkling eyes stared openly at me, filled with admiration and warmth. Wow, this is the heroine aura for sure. She really is an angelic girl, sweet, cute, and her voice is pleasant too. Way better than this ice block sitting across from me, I thought happily to myself. Across the table, Willow's face instantly went cold again, colder than before. The temperature in the private room felt like it had dropped 10 degrees. I quickly straightened my expression and smiled politely. Sophia, you're exaggerating. No, I'm not. Sophia leaned in closer and whispered, Gio, I heard from my mom that you and my cousin got engaged. Congratulations. Her eyes curved into crescents. She looked genuinely happy for us. I hadn't even opened my mouth before irritation surged inside me. Congratulations my ass. I'm trying every day to find a way to break off this engagement. Your cousin is like a piece of superglue. I can't shake her off no matter what. It's killing me. Ahem. Willow, sitting across from us, suddenly coughed loudly, forcefully interrupting the monologue in my head. She shot me a cold look filled with unmistakable warning. Sophia was startled, stuck her tongue out again, and didn't dare talk to me further. The atmosphere instantly became awkward. Thankfully, Sophia was lively enough to pick up the conversation again. Cousin, I heard your company recently secured the land in West City. You're amazing. No one expected the government to develop an industrial zone there. Willow replied with a light but her eyes drifted toward me. Amazing my ass, that was thanks to me rambling on the couch. If she couldn't hear my inner thoughts and swoop in early, I would be the one making a fortune right now. But fine. I guess it's technically still staying in the family. Pfft. What family? This engagement is getting cancelled no matter what. My mood soured again. Willow's hand gripping the teacup turned pale at the knuckles. She took a long, steadying breath, clearly trying to keep her emotions under control. Sophia, oblivious to the tension, continued praising her cousin and Ito Group too. I heard their overseas acquisition blew up spectacularly. Their stock is basically crashing to zero. Luckily you ended the partnership beforehand, or you'd definitely be dragged down with them. Cousin, your business instincts are incredible. Hearing this, Willow's cheeks actually flushed slightly. Her gaze fell on me with an emotion I couldn't quite decipher. Complex, mixed, intense. That look seemed to say, all of this is because of you. I felt awkward under her stare and lowered my head to pretend I was drinking tea. Inside, though, I muttered, why are you looking at me? Trying to take credit. If not for me, you'd probably still be getting fooled by that idiot Makoto. Speaking of which, Makoto is kind of a hopeless romantic. He chased Willow for years. Too bad he's dumb enough to be used by others without realizing it. I was still sighing to myself when, bang. The private room door was violently kicked open from the outside. A man in a suit, face ashen and eyes bloodshot, stormed inside. Willow. It was Makoto. He looked like a beast forced into a corner, eyes locked onto Willow with desperation, then turning to me, filled with hatred and jealousy. Oh, I finally get it. You rejected me, ended the partnership, all because of this pretty boy. Willow, how am I worse than him? Makoto pointed at my nose, shouting hysterically. I was speechless. Bro, are you misunderstanding something? I'm the one who can't wait for her to run off with you. Also, don't point your finger at me. Very rude. Sophia was so frightened her face turned pale, and she hid behind me. Willow shot up from her seat, her face covered in frost. Makoto, what the hell is wrong with you? Wrong. My company is almost bankrupt, and it's all because of you, because of him. Makoto completely lost it. Eyes red. He lunged straight at me. George, I'll kill you. I remained seated, not moving at all. Seriously, slow speed, unstable footing, full of openings. David should be here any moment. This kind of small fry, he can handle. I'm not lowering myself for this. Just as Makoto's fist was about to reach me, a dark figure flashed past. David, my all-purpose assistant, somehow appeared inside the private room without anyone noticing. With just one hand, he easily caught Makoto Ito's fist. Mr. Ito, please calm down. David's voice was perfectly calm, but the force in his grip made Makoto's face twist instantly. Ah, let go of me. Without changing expression, David grabbed Makoto like a stray cat and dragged him out of the room. The entire process took less than 10 seconds. The private room fell into dead silence. Sophia peeked out from behind me, her big eyes filled with sparkling admiration. "Gio, you're amazing. You're not scared at all." I gave a modest smile, hiding my true glory while thinking, of course, victory achieved without lifting a finger. This tiny scene, piece of cake. Meanwhile, across from me, Willow's eyes had completely changed. In her gaze, there were shock, curiosity, and a faint glimmer of admiration she herself hadn't yet realized. For the first time, she discovered that the fiancé she always believed to be a useless good-for-nothing was surrounded by a fog she couldn't see through. Chapter 6. After Makoto was dragged away, this meal was completely ruined. Sophia was still stuck between lingering fear and rising admiration, and her big round eyes never left me. "Gio, your assistant is so cool. Where did you find such an expert?" "Oh, I just hired him casually," I replied lightly. Inside, I was laughing smugly. Casually? Yeah, right. David was my top pick from over 100 retired Special Forces elites, a #1 confidant who can manage hundreds of billions in assets and also take on 10 men alone. A full package king. Of course he's cool. I secretly glanced at Willow. As expected, her ears twitched again. Looks like she heard my inner thoughts loud and clear. Her gaze on me grew deeper, as if she were reevaluating some priceless, rare treasure. "I'll take you home," Willow suddenly said, to Sophia. Oh, okay. Sophia clearly wanted to stay with me a little longer, but facing her cousin's unquestionable aura, she obediently nodded. Before leaving, she secretly waved at me and mouth-shaped the words, "Let's talk later." I smiled and nodded back. Such a lovely girl. Shame she's one of the heroines of the original story, someone a cannon fodder like me has no fate with. Willow's footsteps paused slightly. After they left, I got up lazily, ready to go home. The moment I exited the private room, I saw David waiting at the end of the corridor. "Young Master Wong, everything has been handled. And Makoto, as you instructed, I sent him to Africa to work in a mine. 10-year contract, food and lodging included," David reported expressionlessly. I nodded in satisfaction, daring to point at my nose and insult me, even trying to hit me. Sending you to Africa to experience life is already me being merciful. I was about to get into the car when my phone buzzed. A message from Willow. "Tomorrow at 10 a.m. GEORNG group board meeting. You must attend." The tone was commanding, leaving no room for refusal. I frowned. Again, she's getting addicted to this. Dragging me in as her free plug-in cheat. Not going. I already have a fishing appointment tomorrow. No time. Thinking that, I directly replied with one word. "Busy." No response came. Probably furious, I happily enjoyed the peace, drove my Lamborghini, let the night breeze blow, and went home to sleep. The next day, I got up early, changed into casual clothes, grabbed my million-yuan carbon fiber fishing rod, and drove my big G-Wagon straight to a private fishing park in the suburbs. The sunlight was perfect, the breeze gentle. Lying on a recliner, rod set up beside me, sunglasses on, iced plum drink in hand, I was so relaxed I was about to fall asleep. This was life. Board meetings, business battles. They could all go to hell. Just as I was drifting off, I heard the sharp, rapid clacking of high heels approaching. I didn't even lift my eyelids. Who's the uncultured person making noise in such a peaceful place? A familiar, cool fragrance drifted toward me. Then my sunglasses were snatched off by a delicate yet forceful hand. The bright sunlight made me squint, and there she was, Willow's beautiful face covered in frost. She wore a sharp white business suit, hair neatly pinned up, makeup flawless, and her whole body emanated the powerful aura of someone very angry. "George." She gritted her teeth as she said my name. I lazily opened my eyes and put on an innocent expression. "Well, President Liu, what brings you here? What a coincidence, you also came fishing." Pretending not to know. Hee. Watching her fume like this is way too fun. Willow's chest rose and fell sharply. Clearly I had pissed her off badly. "I sent you a message. Why did you say you were busy?" "Because I really am busy." I pointed at my fishing rod. "See, I made an appointment with the fish." Willow was speechless. She was so choked by my shameless, righteously confident answer that she couldn't speak for a long moment. She took a deep breath, clearly trying hard to calm herself down. "The board meeting is about to start. All the shareholders are waiting for you. You must come back with me." "Not going." I put my sunglasses back on and lay down again. What's fun about a meeting? Fishing is way more interesting. Inside, though, I was calculating. Today's agenda is just about whether to enter the new energy vehicle market. Those old fossils will definitely oppose it, saying the risk is too high. What's there to argue about? Just fully acquire that almost bankrupt Thunder Auto and be done with it. Their battery and electric drivetrain tech is at least 5 years ahead of the industry. They're only short on cash. Acquire them. Rename the brand to Ethereal Jade Gleam. Hire the best designers to create the exterior. And it could launch next year. Within 3 years it would absolutely become the industry leader. Sigh. Such simple logic. But those people just don't get it. Sitting in a meeting with them is a waste of my nap time. I rambled endlessly in my head, then closed my eyes, ready to continue my nap. Willow stood beside me, silent for a long time. I thought she had given up and was about to leave, but instead, she suddenly leaned down, brought her lips close to my ear, and in a voice only the two of us could hear, pronounced each word clearly. Thunder Auto. Ethereal Jade Gleam. My entire body froze instantly. Chapter 7. I snapped my eyes open and shot upright instantly. I stared at Willow, my heart pounding like crazy. She actually repeated the plan I had only thought in my mind. This wasn't just hearing. This was verbatim repetition. It was over. This time it was 100% confirmed. I looked into her cool, clear eyes, and there was a glint of slyness and triumph inside, like a cat that had just stolen a fish snack and couldn't hide its pride. For the first time, panic flooded my heart. Holy crap, holy crap, holy crap. She really can hear me. She knows everything. Then all the insults I thought about her, and all the comments about her body, didn't she hear all of it too? The moment that thought hit, my face flushed red in an instant, from my cheeks all the way down to my neck. 2 lifetimes, and I had never been this embarrassed. Seeing my mortified expression, Willow's long-pressured lips finally loosened, forming a tiny, subtle smile. It vanished in a second, but that fleeting moment of charm was enough to outshine 100 flowers. She smiled, and it was pretty. Wait, no. This is not the time to think about that. I shook my head hard, forcing myself to calm down. What did you just say? I didn't hear clearly. I pretended to be clueless, making my last desperate struggle. Willow straightened her posture, returning to her Ice Queen CEO demeanor. Looking down at me from above, I said, since you have so much confidence in the Ethereal Jade Gleam Auto project, why don't you present it yourself at the board meeting and convince those old dinosaurs? She directly repeated, Ethereal Jade Gleam. The name I had just invented in my head. I had no room left to deny anything. All the energy drained out of me. I collapsed back into the recliner like a deflated balloon, dead inside. Not interested, I muttered. Not interested in what? Not interested in anything, I said in defeat. Since you can hear everything anyway, you can just go say it yourself. Why drag me along? Ugh, what a disaster. My only secret is gone. This feels like streaking in public. How am I supposed to act cool in front of her now? How can I enjoy roasting people in my head anymore? My life as a happy couch potato, my source of joy, gone. My inner soul screamed in despair. Willow looked at my devastated state, and, unexpectedly, a hint of pity appeared in her eyes. She sat down in the chair beside me, her tone softening significantly. George, this isn't just my company, it's yours too. Our Wang and Liu families each hold 30% of GEO Orange Group. We're tied together. If this project succeeds, it benefits both families enormously. I turned my head away, refusing to look at her. That's your business. I just want to fish. And since you already know what to do, what difference does it make if I go? Don't disturb my beautiful slacker life. Willow fell silent for a moment. Then she suddenly asked, do you dislike me that much? Her voice was soft, with a hint of trembling and grievance that was easy to miss. I froze. Turning back, I saw her lowering her head, long eyelashes casting shadows on her cheeks, making her look faintly fragile. Dislike? Not exactly. I just thought she was too cold, like a robot, with zero sense of fun. But now, she doesn't seem that humorless. And she's so pretty, with such a figure. If I really hated her, I wouldn't have had those thoughts at the cafe that day. Just as that thought crossed my mind, Willow's ears turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the redness started spreading to her cheeks. She jerked her head up, glaring at me in embarrassment and anger. George, can't you think about something serious? I was speechless. Great. Conversation ruined for today. I finally understood. As long as I'm near her, I have zero privacy. I accepted my fate. I raised a hand in surrender. Fine, I'll go. Okay, but I have one condition. What condition? Willow's eyes lit up slightly. Tonight, I want you to cook dinner for me. I looked at her, intentionally making it difficult. Aren't you supposed to be a domestic disaster? Can't even handle coffee. Let's see how you cook. Make something disastrous. Perfect excuse for me to mock you and win back some dignity. I smirked inwardly, while looking expectant on the surface. I thought she'd refuse, or get angry, but unexpectedly, Willow only froze for a second, then solemnly nodded. All right, I'll do it. Her eyes were more serious than ever before. Chapter 8. GEO Orange Group. Top floor conference room. The atmosphere was so heavy it felt like it could freeze solid. A group of board members whose combined age exceeded 500 sat upright in their seats, every face filled with disapproval. I object. An old man with graying hair, Alexander, a distant relative of the Wang family and a well-known conservative, spoke first. The new energy vehicle field requires massive investment and carries enormous risk. GEORNG started with real estate and finance. If we recklessly cross industries and fail, the consequences would be catastrophic. That's right. President Liu, you're still too young. I've heard of this, Thunder Auto. It's practically a bankrupt shell, spending billions to acquire a pile of trash. This is absurd. Another director chimed in. Willow sat at the head of the table, her expression cold as still water. Everything they were saying was exactly what George had predicted. She glanced to her side. The man who was supposed to be the protagonist of this discussion was currently leaning back in his chair, eyes closed, breathing even, asleep. He actually fell asleep in a setting like this. The surrounding board members saw this and looked at him with open disdain and scorn. Look at that. This is the heir of the Wang family, totally hopeless. With a fiancé like him, President Liu must have had 8 lifetimes of bad luck. Willow's nails dug deep into her palm, but she didn't lash out, because she could clearly hear George's thoughts. Heh, a bunch of stubborn fossils. Their vision is smaller than a needle tip. Old man Alexander's son owns a company that supplies parts for traditional fuel vehicles. If the group goes into new energy, his son's business will be the first to lose money. Of course he's against it. And that Ma guy, Makoto's dad, bought him off ages ago. He's just here to stir up trouble today. And Willow, this woman, seriously, this is so obvious and she still can't see it. Why bother arguing with them? Just slap Alexander's son's tax evasion evidence on the table. Then throw out Ma's bribe transaction records. Let's see if they dare make a peep. Sigh. Still too young. Not ruthless enough. George was sleeping even more soundly while mentally criticizing everyone in the room. Meanwhile, Willow, seated at the head, listened to his inner commentary, her eyes becoming brighter and colder. So that's how it is. She took a deep breath and accepted 2 files from her secretary. Slam. The impact of the folders hitting the table made everyone jump. Even George frowned slightly in his sleep. Director Wang. Willow's ice-cold stare locked onto Alexander Wang. Perhaps you should first care about your son's tax situation. As far as I know, the tax bureau will be visiting him tomorrow. Alexander's face instantly drained of color, cold sweat dripping down his forehead. Willow then turned to the other director. Chairman Ma, in your Swiss bank account, didn't a 5 million transfer arrive last week, from an account under the surname Ito? Director Ma collapsed from his chair with a thud, his face the color of ash. The entire conference room fell into dead silence. Everyone stared at Willow as if she were a monster. When had this young president become so ruthless, so well-informed, so terrifyingly sharp? Willow swept her gaze across the room, her voice icy. Now, who still opposes acquiring Thunder Auto? Not a sound. Good. Unanimously approved. After speaking, Willow glanced at the sleeping George beside her, eyes full of complicated emotion. This man, who had seemingly done nothing, had simultaneously done everything. He was like a silent god behind the curtain, influencing the entire situation without lifting a finger. The meeting ended, and the directors slipped away like frightened birds. Willow walked over to George and gently nudged him. Hey, wake up, the meeting's over. I let out a sleepy hum and opened my eyes in a daze. Pretending to know nothing, I asked, it's over. What's the result? Go on, keep acting. Willow grumbled inwardly, but her face remained calm. It passed. Oh, that's good. Can I go now? I have to go home for dinner tonight. At the mention of dinner, Willow's expression stiffened slightly. I won't go back on my word, she said awkwardly. After work, come to my place. Without waiting for my reply, she turned and hurried off in her heels. Watching her slightly panicked retreating figure, I couldn't help but grin widely. An ice queen CEO who's a complete domestic disaster, cooking dinner with her own hands. I couldn't wait to see whether it would be a pleasant surprise or a catastrophic disaster. Chapter 9. At 7 in the evening, I arrived at Willow's villa right on time. Her place was far from the city, a standalone villa halfway up the mountain, heavily secured with excellent privacy. I rang the doorbell, and surprisingly, Willow herself came to open the door. She was wearing a pink apron with an orange tabby cat printed on it. The visual impact was simply too strong. I could swear that in the entire company, no, the entire world, absolutely no one had ever seen the Ice Queen CEO Willow in such a state. PFF. Ha ha ha. A pink chubby orange cat apron. What is this? It clashes so hard with her cold face. Is this supposed to be Gapmo? Don't tell me she's secretly obsessed with cutesy stuff. This is hilarious. Inside, I was laughing so hard I could roll on the floor, but I forced my expression to remain stiff and merely looked at her with a probing gaze. Willow's face was already red enough to drip blood. She shot me a fierce glare and stepped aside to let me in. What are you staring at? Never seen someone wear an apron before. I've seen people wear one, just not you, I answered honestly. the moment I stepped inside. A difficult to describe smell hit my nose. Something like burnt charcoal, mixed with some kind of chemical scorched odor. My heart dropped. No way, this smell. Did the kitchen explode? I hurried toward the kitchen. The scene before my eyes left me completely stunned. The previously spotless, futuristic open kitchen now looked like it had survived World War III. The countertop was a disaster, vegetable scraps and unidentified liquids everywhere. A pot was overturned on the floor, filled with some black, unrecognizable substance. Another pot was still on the stove, billowing thick black smoke. Beep, beep, beep. The smoke alarm was screaming nonstop, and our President Lou, the mighty CEO, was standing there helplessly with a spatula, staring blankly at the smoking pot, her beautiful face smeared with sooty smudges, like a pitiful little cat. This wasn't just a domestic disaster. This was a kitchen terminator. I rushed over, turned off the stove, switched on the exhaust fan, opened the windows. An entire sequence of fluid motions. Willow stood frozen beside me, stunned by how smoothly I handled everything. You know how to, she murmured. I gave her a glare. If I didn't, were you planning to burn the house down? My God, how has this woman survived all these years? With skills like these, she would have starved to death if she lived alone. Forget it, there's no relying on her. My dinner, guess I'll have to cook it myself. I sighed helplessly, rolled up my sleeves, and began cleaning the disaster zone. Willow stood aside like a child who did something wrong, fidgeting, wanting to help but not knowing where to start. Sorry, she whispered. At least you know you should apologize. I scrubbed a burnt pot while complaining. President Lou, do you have some misunderstanding about the concept of cooking? Willow lowered her head even further, her voice small and full of grievance. It was my first time. I froze mid-motion. First time, just to cook a meal, for me. Something inside my chest twitched, a bit soft, a bit numb. I stopped talking and silently finished cleaning up the kitchen. Then I opened the fridge. The ingredients were fully stocked, top-grade Wagyu, Australian lobsters, organic vegetables, TSK, rich people. Such good ingredients, wasted in her hands. I picked a few simple ingredients and decided to make 4 dishes and 1 soup. What are you going to cook? Willow leaned in curiously. Tomato scrambled eggs, shredded pork with green peppers, mapo tofu, and a fish head soup, I replied casually. Just simple home-style dishes. For a pampered heiress like her, luxury ingredients mean nothing. Only simple home-cooked dishes can truly win her stomach. Willow watched me chop vegetables, stir-fry, and flip the wok with practiced ease. Her eyes grew brighter and brighter. She had never imagined that a man could look this attractive while cooking. The exhaust fan roared, the wok sizzled, and the aroma of food soon replaced the burnt smell, filling the entire kitchen. This warm, homely scent made the cold, sterile mansion feel like a home for the first time. Willow, without realizing it, ended up staring blankly at me in a daze, until I placed the last dish on the table. Don't stare, you're about to drool. Go grab bowls and chopsticks, we're eating. Willow snapped back to reality, face flushing red. She let out an obedient little "oh," like a well-behaved young wife, and hurried off to get the tableware. Chapter 10. At the dining table, the atmosphere felt a bit delicate. 4 dishes and 1 soup, nothing but the simplest home-style food, yet everything smelled amazing and looked perfect. Willow sat across from me, taking small, elegant bites, but her speed wasn't slow at all. Clearly, she was starving. Slow down. Nobody's fighting you for food. You look like a little kitten that hasn't eaten for 3 days. The moment that thought crossed my mind, Willow's chopsticks paused, and her cheeks reddened again. She glanced up and shot me a shy, annoyed glare. I was already used to this and calmly ladled a bowl of fish head soup for her. Drink some soup. Warm your stomach. Judging by how she looked earlier, she definitely didn't eat properly again today. Workaholic stomachs need care. Willow accepted the bowl, lowered her head, and whispered, "Thank you." Her voice had lost its usual coldness. Instead, there was a trace of tenderness that was hard to notice. I admit it. My heart skipped a beat. Maybe this woman wasn't that bad after all. After dinner, I naturally sprawled across the living room sofa. I cooked. So you wash the dishes. Sounds fair, right? Willow glanced at the disastrous kitchen, then at her freshly done, 5-digit cost manicure, and fell silent. Her, doing dishes, might as well expect pigs to climb trees. She probably doesn't even know how to turn on a dishwasher. The moment I finished thinking that, I heard Willow quietly ask, "Where's the dishwasher switch?" I was speechless. Forget it, better if I do it. I resigned myself to the task and walked into the kitchen, but Willow suddenly called out behind me, "George, what now?" I turned around, standing beneath the warm living room lights. She hesitated for a moment, then gathered her courage. "Thank you for today." She meant the board meeting, and this dinner. Sorry, that apology was for her earlier stubbornness. and the disaster she caused in the kitchen. I looked at her. It was the first time she had thanked and apologized to me so seriously. Under the soft light, her face looked gentle, her eyes sincere, not the untouchable Ice Queen CEO, but a normal girl who made mistakes and felt guilty. All right, I get it. I waved a hand and walked back into the kitchen. Why so sentimental? It feels weird. Still, since she apologized so sincerely, I'll temporarily forgive the land-snatching incident. While I washed the dishes, Willow stood by the doorway, quietly watching me, not saying a word. The air was calm and harmonious. Then, my phone rang. It was a video call from Sophia. My hands were covered in soap, so I clamped my phone between my shoulder and cheek and pressed accept. Sophia's enlarged, sweet smile filled the screen. Gio, what are you doing? Doing dishes, I answered simply. Wah, Gio, you even do housework. You're way too perfect. Whoever marries you will be the happiest woman alive. Sophia squealed through the phone. I chuckled, about to reply, when suddenly, I felt the temperature beside me drop sharply. Turning my head, I saw Willow staring at my screen with an intense glare, like she wanted to burn a hole through it. Her lips were pressed into a thin line, her entire aura screaming, I'm very annoyed. Well, someone's jealous. This sour smell could cross the Pacific Ocean. Feeling amused, I deliberately said into the video, Sophia, you really know how to flatter people. When you're free, I'll cook for you. Okay, it's a promise. The moment I finished that sentence, a hand reached out and ended the video call. Willow, she hung up for me, set my phone aside, and then, she did something that genuinely stunned me. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around my waist from behind. Her cheek gently pressed against my back. My whole body froze. I could clearly feel the curve of her soft body, and the warm heat seeping through the thin fabric between us. George, her voice carried a mix of grievance and possessiveness, muffled into my back. From now on, you're only allowed to cook for me. Chapter 11. I froze on the spot, my mind going completely blank. The soft warmth pressing against my back, along with that slightly bossy yet wounded whisper by my ear, exploded inside me like a deep-water bomb. Holy, what's happening? Throwing herself into my arms, claiming ownership. Willow, you're cold. Aloof CEO persona, where did it go? Did you eat it yourself? I could feel the body clinging to my back trembling slightly. She was nervous too. This was probably the boldest, most outrageous thing she had ever done in her life. My thoughts were in chaos, and for a moment, I genuinely had no idea how to react. Push her away. That felt too cruel. Not push her. This posture was way too intimate. Just as I was stuck in mental combat, Willow seemed to realize how inappropriate her action was. She jolted as if shocked, hurriedly let go, and took 2 big steps back. Her face was burning red. I didn't mean that, she stammered, completely flustered. I just think, your cooking is really good, and I don't want anyone else eating it. Honestly, that explanation was worse than no explanation. It was practically a confession with extra steps. I turned around and saw her standing there, embarrassed, anxious, her hands unsure where to go. I couldn't help but laugh. So the Ice Queen CEO looks like this when she's jealous. Actually, kind of cute. Willow heard my thoughts, and her face turned even redder. She stomped her foot hard. Don't laugh. Like an angry cat baring its claws, but with zero threat. Okay, I'm not laughing, I said, raising my hands in surrender while trying not to smile. The earlier tension dissolved into a lightly warm, delicate atmosphere. I'll wash the dishes, Willow offered, clearly trying to bury her embarrassment. I glanced at her, then at the sink. Forget it. I'm afraid you'll demolish my kitchen. I briskly finished the remaining dishes, wiped my hands dry, and walked back out. Willow was still standing in the living room, looking unsure of what to do. It's late. I'll drive you home, she said. No need. I drove here. Oh. Silence settled between us again, without my mind-reading ability fueling internal commentary. It suddenly felt like neither of us knew what to say. I'll head out, then, I finally said. I walked to the foyer, changed my shoes, and placed my hand on the doorknob. George, she called me again. I turned back. She stood not far away, looking at me, her eyes carrying a trace of expectation and uncertainty. Tomorrow, will you come again? She asked softly, cautiously. I looked at her. My mind flashed with images. Her wearing that chubby orange cat apron. Her panicking in the smoke-filled kitchen. Her jealous, adorable outburst. And her current vulnerable gaze. It felt like she was slowly revealing the softest, most genuine parts of herself, all because she could hear my thoughts, because she heard the real me, the me beneath the carefree facade, the me who wanted to be a laid-back couch potato yet saw through everything. Maybe, being with her wasn't so unacceptable, and having such an interesting, gorgeous roommate in my life plan didn't sound bad at all. A thought emerged naturally within me. I smiled at her. Not a teasing smile. Not a lazy smile. But a sincere, real one. Come, why wouldn't I? Tomorrow I want braised pork. Make sure you buy the pork belly beforehand. And don't you dare try cooking again. I'd like to live a long life. Before she could respond, I opened the door and walked out coolly. Behind me, Willow stood frozen. A few seconds later, a radiant smile bloomed on her face. A smile like melting ice, like the first warmth of spring, bright enough to make the whole world pale in comparison. Chapter 12. From that day on, my relationship with Willow entered a strange and wonderful stage. My daily routine changed from eating, sleeping, playing games to eating, sleeping, teasing Willow. Yes, Willow. After she blushed yet again because of my inner complaints, I simply started calling her that. Calling her President Lou was too distant. Calling her Willow felt much closer. Anyway, she's going to be my wife sooner or later, so I might as well get used to it in advance. When Willow heard that inner thought of mine, she almost crushed the pen in her hand, but the blush spreading all the way to her ears exposed her true feelings. So, this form of address was settled just like that. As an exchange, she also began calling me George. We hadn't officially confirmed our relationship, but the way we got along was already more intimate than many couples. Every day after I got off work, even though I barely worked at all, end, I would show up at her villa on time to cook her dinner. She would follow behind me like a little tail, handing me a plate or grabbing some seasoning, though occasionally she still caused trouble. For example, mistaking salt for sugar. In my heart, I screamed, "My dear princess, are you trying to make me die of saltiness so you can inherit my millions of virtual tokens?" "I didn't do it on purpose," she argued, cheeks blushing. After dinner, I would lie on the sofa watching TV, and she would sit on the carpet beside me, her head resting against my leg while she handled company documents. The scene was unbelievably harmonious. The company employees were on the verge of losing their minds. They discovered that their eternally cold, decisive, queen-like female CEO had changed recently. She would smile at her phone screen for no reason. During meetings, she would suddenly blush while staring in a certain direction. There was even one time when everyone was discussing a newly released cute-style figurine in the break room, and when President Lou happened to pass by, she actually stopped and asked, "Where can I buy it?" The entire company fell into a panic of, has our CEO been possessed by someone else? And I, the culprit behind all of this, stayed hidden in the shadows, taking all the glory without a sound. My career as a professional lazy slob became even smoother thanks to Willow acting like a cheat code. Occasionally, I would stroll around the company, take a nap during a meeting, and complain in my head. The next day, the stock price of GEORange Group would definitely surge. The hashtag George didn't he get out of bed today unexpectedly became a mystical indicator in the financial world. As long as I remained inactive, it meant the world was at peace and the company would surely profit. Countless investors prayed in the comments of my social media every day, begging me not to try too hard. I was speechless. Are you guys even polite? That day, Sophia sent me a video again. She had recently joined a gourmet variety show as a special guest. "Geo, save me." The moment the video connected, she appeared with a distressed face. "What happened?" I asked, lying on the lawn of Willow's villa, sunbathing while Willow read next to me. The show's theme for this episode requires us to make a dish related to home. I can't cook anything. The recording is next week. I'm definitely going to embarrass myself. Home? That's actually a good theme. My eyes turned slightly, and an idea popped up. "Don't panic. I'll teach you." "Really? That's amazing." I started explaining a recipe to her through the video. This dish is called fruitful lineage. It's basically an upgraded version of shredded chicken with egg white sauce. The process is complicated, but the meaning behind it is beautiful, and it brings out the warmth of home the best. I was speaking enthusiastically, completely unaware that Willow, who had been reading beside me, had already stopped flipping her pages. She looked calm on the surface, but those whitened knuckles holding the book betrayed the storm inside her. Lastly, slide the minced chicken into warm oil. Once it forms shape, scoop it out and pour over a thick sauce made from broth, ham, and dried scallops. Then it's done. Got it. Got it. Got it. Geo, you're amazing. This is literally Michelin chef level. I love you so much. Sophia's excited screams exploded from the other side of the screen. Enough joking. Practice properly. I hung up with a laugh. When I turned my head, I met Willow's deep, ocean-like gaze. "Fruitful lineage?" she asked softly, her voice unreadable. "It sounds like a dish that requires a lot of effort." My heart skipped a beat. Crap, I was too busy showing off and forgot there's a jealous girl sitting right next to me. Ahem. I was just saying whatever came to mind, I explained weakly. Willow didn't respond. She simply closed her book, stood up, and looked down at me from above. "George, You seem to have never made something this complicated for me. Her voice was calm, too calm, but beneath that calmness hid waves large enough to drown someone. Every day, what I eat is tomatoes, scrambled eggs, and shredded pork with peppers. So in your heart, that's all I'm worth. Heavens, I swear. That's because your stomach is weak and you can only eat mild home-style dishes. I'm doing this for your own good, beauty. I wanted to explain so badly, but the words wouldn't leave my mouth, because the character I had built for myself was that of a can't be bothered to explain, privileged lazy slob. Looking at her eyes, filled with hurt and disappointment, I felt a rare sense of powerlessness. This mind-reading ability, sometimes it's a damn trap. It lets her see my real thoughts. But it can't explain the things I didn't say out loud in my heart. Chapter 13. It's not what you think. I finally opened my mouth, my voice a little dry. Willow looked at me silently, her eyes filled with even deeper grievance. Sigh, a woman's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the ocean. I did it for her own good. Yet she's mad. Forget it. Forget it. My wife. My responsibility to coax. I let out a breath, sat up from the grass, and gently held her hand. Her hand was cold. Tomato scrambled eggs, you don't like it? I asked. She pressed her lips together and said nothing. Shredded pork with peppers, you dislike that too? Still no response, she simply turned her head to the side. Then, how about I make you fruitful lineage tomorrow? I tried cautiously. She snapped her head back toward me, a faint spark lighting up her eyes, but it dimmed just as quickly. That's the dish you taught Sophia, she said in a muffled voice. Great. Here comes the jealousy again. I was completely helpless, rubbing my brow. I felt a headache approaching. All right, my fault. All my fault. I raised my hands in surrender. Then what do you want? Tell me, I'll do whatever you say. Seeing my resigned yet indulgent expression, the little grievance in Willow's heart had already melted away. But she didn't want to let me off that easily. Her eyes moved slightly, and suddenly, she seemed to think of something. A mischievous smile curled her lips. I want you to make a dish that belongs only to me, unique, exclusive, and it has to be more complicated, tastier, and more meaningful than fruitful lineage. I was speechless. This woman, she's learning to extend the logic and raise the stakes. Looking at her expression, half demanding, half anticipating, I felt both helpless and amused. Fine, I promise. What else could I do? I could only spoil her, but I have a condition too. What condition? I pulled her hand, guiding her to sit beside me, then leaned toward her ear and whispered a sentence that only the two of us could hear. Willow's face exploded, blushing from cheeks to ears, then spreading down her fair neck. Like a frightened bunny, she shoved me away and jumped to her feet. George, you pervert. Leaving those words behind, she turned and ran back into the villa, abandoning even her limited edition book. Watching her flee in panic, the smile on my lips grew wider and wider. What I whispered was, when I finish the dish, you have to secretly bring your household registration book so we can go get our marriage license. 1 week later, during the live broadcast of the gourmet variety show Sophia participated in, the dish she made, fruitful lineage, stunned every judge and the entire audience. This dish doesn't just test knife skills and heat control. It tests the heart of the creator. Sophia, can you tell us who taught you to make this? One of the judges asked curiously. Sophia gave a sweet smile. It was a very important person. He taught me that the true flavor of home comes from sincerity, not from expensive ingredients. The bullet comments instantly flooded the screen. Oh, which man is it? Sophia's got something going on. Meanwhile, in Willow's villa, I brought out the one and only dish I had prepared for her. It didn't have a name. The dish looked like a painting. The plate was warm white jade porcelain. At its center was a crystal clear amber-like jelly made from premium chicken broth, sculpted into a tiny, exquisite house. Around the little house were small flowers and grass carved from colorful vegetables, lifelike and vivid. The most astonishing part was the warm orange glow shining through the windows of the house. It was a tiny lamp made from pumpkin puree mixed with egg yolk. This is, Willow stared at the artwork before her, so stunned she couldn't speak. I named it our home, I said, looking into her eyes. Speaking seriously, the house represents my hope for our future. The flowers and grass around it are the things you like, and the warm light in the window means, no matter how late you come home, I'll always leave a light on for you. Willow's eyes reddened instantly. Silly woman, hurry and cry. If you cry, I'll have a reason to hold you. Just as the thought crossed my mind, Willow's tears fell like strings of broken pearls. Uncontrollable, she couldn't hold back anymore and threw herself into my arms. George, you bastard, she cried while pounding my chest with her small fists. I wrapped my arms tightly around her, feeling the warmth and softness of the woman in my embrace. All right, don't cry. If you keep crying, the dish will get cold. I don't care, she said, acting spoiled in my arms. I lowered my head and kissed the tears at the corner of her eyes. Then, I kissed her soft lips. This time, she didn't dodge. Instead, she responded clumsily yet passionately. The kiss was long and gentle, filled with love and mutual confirmation. After a long while, our lips parted. We looked at each other and smiled. So, I looked at her swollen eyes and glistening lips, my voice a little hoarse. Will you agree to my condition? Willow blushed again. She buried her head in my chest, her voice as soft as a mosquito's whisper. Chapter 14. The next day, I dragged Willow to get our marriage license. The process went unbelievably smoothly. She actually stole her household registration book out when we walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau holding those two little red booklets. Willow still looked a bit dazed. We're married already. Otherwise, you planning to back out? I shook the marriage certificate in my hand, grinning like a cat that just stole a fish. Even if you wanted to regret it, it's too late. Willow, in this lifetime, you're never escaping from the palm of my hand. Hearing my inner voice, Willow didn't get mad at all. Instead, her eyes curved as she smiled. She took the initiative to hold my hand, fingers tightly intertwined. I won't regret it, she said, looking at me with eyes firm and soft at the same time. Never. Under the sunlight, her smile outshone the sun itself. We didn't announce our marriage with fireworks or headlines, but the people who needed to know still knew. The happiest of all were our parents, my cheap old men. Upon realizing not only did I not break off the engagement, but also managed to bring home Willow, a business prodigy, and even made GEORange Group flourish under her buff, laughed so hard his mouth couldn't close. He directly transferred several company shares under my name, calling it a fund for your wife. Willow's parents, on the other hand, were satisfied with me 100 times over, especially Mrs. Lou Mom, who grabbed my hand with teary eyes. George, our Willow, she's been like a little adult since she was a child. She shoulders everything herself, never acts spoiled, never relies on us. We always worried she'd never get married. Thank goodness for you. You saw the softness under her cold exterior. Thank you. Willow, standing beside her with an embarrassed expression, made me chuckle. Mom, don't worry. She has me from now on. The moment I called her Mom, Lou Mom beamed with joy. Willow, however, wanted to dig a hole and bury herself from embarrassment. Where there is joy, there is sorrow. After Sophia learned about us getting married, she remained silent on the phone for a long time, but eventually, she sincerely said, "Congratulations, Gio, and cousin, Sophia. You'll find your own happiness too," I told her. For example, the domineering CEO male lead from the original novel. He should be making his appearance soon, right? After I hung up, Willow stared at me with a quiet intensity. Domineering CEO male lead. Ahem. A character from a novel. I explained instantly. Oh, and in that novel, am I one of those villainous female side characters destined to simp for you all the way only to end up with nothing? She narrowed her eyes, smiling dangerously. Holy crap. How does she know the exact wording? When did I ever think that out loud? You forgot. Willow tapped her head. You thought that the first time we met. I was speechless. I was finished. My black history had been dug up. Survival instincts kicked in. I immediately dropped to one knee, took her hand, and looked up at her with deep affection. Wife, in my heart, you're not a side character. You're the one and only female lead of my life. Willow froze for a second at my sudden dramatic performance, then burst out laughing. She pulled me up and planted a kiss on my cheek, for speaking so sweetly. I'll forgive you, for now. I finally let out a breath of relief. Looks like married life will also be full of surprises and challenges. Chapter 15. Married life was even more comfortable than I had imagined. I continued carrying out my grand plan of lying flat. Every day, I slept until I naturally woke up, cooked a bit, exercised a bit, and spent the rest of my time accompanying my wife. As for company matters, all I needed to do was offer a bit of silent, strategic guidance in my heart whenever Willow faced difficulties. She could always catch my intent with pinpoint accuracy and execute it flawlessly. The two of us, one in the light, one in the shadows, worked together seamlessly. Under our joint command, the market value of GEORange Group skyrocketed, becoming an industry legend that could never be replicated. As for me, the title of Stock God George grew more and more famous, though the public still couldn't understand how a man who spent all day fishing and sleeping could have such accurate business instincts. That day, Willow's company hosted its anniversary banquet. As the CEO's spouse, I was naturally required to attend. Wearing a well-fitted suit and escorting the radiant Willow, we instantly became the center of attention the moment we walked in. Willow wore a starry sky blue evening gown that night, noble, elegant, breathtakingly beautiful. Wife, you're stunning today, I said sincerely. So beautiful I want to take you home right now and then. Redacted 10,000 words of inappropriate inner thoughts. A flush rose on Willow's cheeks. Without changing her expression, she pinched the soft flesh at my waist. Behave. No dirty thoughts when we're outside. she whispered in a voice only we could hear. I chuckled and tightened my hold on her hand. Throughout the banquet, countless people came to toast and chat. I maintained the role of a perfect, pretty accessory, a polite smile on my face, not saying a single word. All complicated social interactions were effortlessly handled by Willow. Perfect. With a wife like this, what more could a man ask for? I can lie flat and be a happy salted fish forever. Halfway through, I went to the restroom. When I came out, I overheard a few female employees chatting. President Liu's husband is so handsome. He looks like a celebrity. Handsome for what? He's just living off his wife. Didn't you see him keeping his mouth shut the whole time? Looks like a total airhead who knows nothing. Exactly. What a waste of that face. It's such a pity. President Liu is like a flower stuck in a pile of manure. I touched my nose. Unfazed. Manure. Can't you be more creative? I'm not just any manure. I'm premium organic fertilizer that makes flowers bloom even brighter. I was about to leave when a familiar figure stepped in front of those female employees. It was Willow. At some point, she had followed me here, her face covered with a layer of icy frost. You three don't need to come to work tomorrow. The women instantly turned pale. President Liu, my man is the best, most exceptional man in the whole world. Willow Liu's voice wasn't loud, but it carried unquestionable authority and fierce protectiveness. You are not qualified to talk about him. With that, she turned around and walked toward me, taking my hand and pulling me back to the center of the banquet hall. Then, in front of everyone, she picked up the microphone. The entire hall went silent. Taking this opportunity, she said, I want to properly reintroduce my husband, George. She looked at me, her eyes filled with love and pride. The glory you see in George Group today, the investments you admire for their perfect precision, the crises you marvel at being resolved every single time, none of this was achieved by me alone. The real helmsman has always been him. I, Willow, am merely the sharpest blade in his hands. The entire hall erupted in shock. Everyone stared at me as if they had just witnessed a ghost. And I looked at the woman standing under the lights, the one who defended me without hesitation, the one who pushed all the credit onto me just to honor me. And a wave of unprecedented emotion and love surged through my heart. Silly girl, what are you talking about? Without you, everything in my head would just stay in my head. You're the one who turns my ideas into reality. We are each other's strongest support, and the perfect team. Hearing my inner voice, Willow's eyes shimmered with tears, but her smile grew even brighter. In front of everyone, she rose on her tiptoes and placed a gentle kiss on my lips. I love you, George. I love you too, Willow, I murmured, holding her tightly. Under the spotlight, we embraced. I know that the reason I ended up inside this book wasn't to become cannon fodder. It was to meet her, fall in love with her, and then live the kind of heavenly life I've always dreamed of. A life even more carefree than that of the immortals.